decided to relaunch the stream there. It's lagging a lot. But now we are good. All right, gentlemen. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. Well, now we're here. Should be much better now. Yeah, it should be much better now. All right, so look at this right here. Estonia has begun installing anti-tank barriers, dragon teeth on the eastern border with Russia. One thing I want to note about this in particular, right here, as you can see the picture right here, this is them loading up the so-called border here with the Russian Federation and the Estonia country, so what appears to be the reason why is because of a mass migration, and they fear that if these migrators could pick up a car or anything like that, could be dry, or it could be anything really. However, one thing that is prominent about what's happening right here is that earlier today Russian bombers were intercepted by fighter jets. So here you have it. Norway scrambles fighter jets to intercept Russian bombers. Russian planes were reportedly close to NATO airspace. So Russian bombers, apparently maybe Tu-95s, Tu-100s, whatever they were getting close to NATO airspace, and therefore we decided to scramble fighter jets and to intercept said bomber earlier this day. Now, keep in mind, this is not the first time. This is one in many times we've had to intercept Russian bombers. But it's significant because it's been a very long time since we've had to intercept since we've actually had to intercept anything from Russia in a long time. Ukraine is lighting up right now. There's been a lot of things happening in Ukraine. There's a Kyiv city right now is lit up. Something has happened there. We believe some kind of kamikaze attack from drone. Other than that, we have what appears to be cruise missile threat in the eastern part here, down towards the Donetsk and Zaporizhia, or southern part, and up in the northern part, we have in the Sumy region shelling and what appears to be, again, kamikaze attacks still raging around in that area. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that he's ready for new negotiations with Putin. This will only make sense if Putin is ready to act. He must withdraw his troops, however, at present there is no sign that this will happen, Scholz said. So Scholz says he is ready to negotiate with Putin, but this will only make sense if Putin is ready to act. He must withdraw his troops. So Scholz's negotiation plan is the one we all have upon our minds, that Putin must withdraw his troops. It's probably going to be in terms of withdraw your troops and we will lift sanctions or stuff like that. It could be anything along those lines that they were willing to look into. I believe that it would be all right to lift those sanctions. People keep saying that it will be all right. It won't be all right. But let's put into perspective one thing here. If Ukraine gets freed of Russian troops all around in all areas, including Crimea, not only would Ukraine have the chance of becoming in NATO country, which we would do, right? Leslie, welcome in. Hello. So, if Scholz's plan of having them withdraw their troops, and if Putin was to do so, which is highly unlikely, but hypothetically, it would be alright in case of us lifting sanctions. However, some have talked about it being a mistake. I do agree. Some differences in opinion there, but yeah. Not only will we accept Ukraine into NATO, but also into the EU. That would give Ukraine a very high chance of not being invaded again, seeing that Ukraine would then be in NATO and Russia would not want to immediately invade a NATO country after just having lost such a significant numbers in Ukraine. They would take some time at least to get ready for it, but at that time, if such actions were to be taken, I believe that we would be ready for it, and then we would probably defeat the Russians at a standpoint, but that would also give us time to not only prepare but get ready in so many areas. We're looking into the future here. Putin's preparing for this to be a long-term war that could lead to something in eventuality. We all know that every European country is saying that war between us and Russia isn't on the agenda, but it is not unlikely because they're saying that if Putin succeeds, he will take time to rebuild his forces and then possibly take Moldova. He will possibly move on Moldova, and he also wants to then take the Baltics, but that would probably take time. Putin is preparing for a long war and a long time of war. He's 70. He's probably going to live to be whatever age, but you get it. So that's the point that we are looking at right now, but yeah. Further on Scholz here, Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, calls on Putin to take the first step to resolve the situation in Ukraine. This Chancellor said that Russian Putin must withdraw his troops, as we said before. According to the Chancellor, such a step could create conditions for the state of peace talks, but so far Scholz believes that there are no prerequisites for a peaceful settlement of the ongoing military conflict, which is true. Saudi Arabia expresses condemnation and denunciation in the strongest terms of the blatant bombing of UNRWA Al-Fakhura school in Gaza Strip by the Israeli occupation forces. Apparently that happened earlier today there. Let me give you the latest on here in the war in Israel here. Of course, as we saw yesterday, further incursions by the this is the latest from War Mapper here, but further incursion from the Israeli army into the southern part of Gaza, into the Khan Yushin area. They have completely surrounded the Hamas fighters in the northern part and continue to fight their way through. This is not an updated version. This is from yesterday. I'm still waiting on the updated version, but they have known to continue to move their way through. So we will get you something from a man on the ground. We're going to watch Trey Yingst. He is on the ground in Ukraine. Sorry, not Ukraine. Well, he was in Ukraine, but now he's in Israel. So let's see if he has any videos lately. November 16th. He's not uploaded anything today, actually. The latest he uploaded is that Hamas is still firing on center Israel. So there you have it. Satellite images show a large group of Palestinians evacuating south of the Salah al-Din road on Friday morning. This happened earlier today. This right here is not a trees. It is people. This is literally people right here. Now the reason why, look at the surroundings, by the way. I mean, completely destroyed, right? The reason why they actually have to have air elements, and they actually have to have troops standing exactly where they're going. They actually have to have air defense systems set up. They have to monitor the situation with 100% accuracy. I'll tell you why. Some people keep telling me that Israel is the one that, is bombing all the civilians. Do you know what would happen if Israel decided to just let those refugees go through that Rafah, that evacuation to the southern part without their air defense systems or help in the air? The Hamas would see these guys, because they are so extremist and so religious in their beliefs, that they would bomb these guys. And this is not just conspiracy theory, it has happened. They have bombed them. They have bombed them when they were trying to evacuate, going to the southern part. They bombed them. They dropped bombs on the civilian areas. And you can imagine the casualties that would come along, if you were to fire on a line that big, where there were casualties would be mounting in the hundreds if you were to fire rockets into a ground like that. So Israel has to be there to help evacuation, because if they're not there to help the evacuation, their own people, the people that claim to be fighting for the Palestinian people, for the people in Gaza, Hamas, will shoot them. Not only shoot them, but they will fire rockets at them. So that's the reality of it, and you might not be wanting to hear it. You sit there, oh, that's but listen, you have to fucking wake the fuck up. Okay, it's not Israel that's the terrorist here. It's the Hamas. Okay, and if you're stupid enough to believe the main media about all that bullshit, then you're stupid, because that is not the fucking truth. Okay, Israel is not the fucking terrorist. Hamas is. Okay, if you're listening all the way around TikTok, if you take your info from TikTok and all these people saying Israel is the terrorist, well, then you're stupid, because that's not true. Okay. Israel is not the terrorist, Hamas is. Now, I'm not calling you stupid. If you believe in the fact that what I'm saying, you're not stupid. And maybe you're not stupid, but you're simply just unknowledgeable about what's actually happening. That's the reality, okay? Hamas is bombing the hospitals. Yesterday, you go back to the stream I made yesterday, you can see a video I showed inside the Al-Shafir hospital, inside where there was an MRI machine. If you don't know what an MRI machine is, it's the one that you go in to get your scan to see if your body, MRI, right? And inside that MRI machine, in the area in where Hamas has previously said, oh yeah, but people can't get treatment because, Israel is bombing these areas and there are special equipment. In those areas with the special equipment, it was where Hamas had stored AK-47s, they had stored bombs, they had stored all kinds of things. So inside a room where there was this expensive piece of equipment that could be used to the hospital needs for people that need this, was not available because the Hamas had put their grenades and AK-47s and all kinds of things in there. They even found inside the hospital, they found books and letters of list of hostages. There was a laptop they found inside the hospital, because this is actually an area where some of the Hamas high command was hiding inside the hospital, actually using it as a command center. And they actually found files and videos of terrorists. Not only were they torturing, they found videos of hostages and file names and names of the hostages, and this whole system they set up about all these hostages. And mass and so many videos with them torturing these hostages, and some of them and shooting some of these hostages, and so to me, yeah, you can keep believing your own little dream and sleep tightly at night, but in reality, what's really happening here is that Hamas is using hospitals, schools, and kindergartens to protect their own men, and fire rockets from said schools against civilian targets within Israel itself. Okay, so that's the reality of it. That's what we know. That's intelligent coming out from the IDF. That's what we know. Okay, that's not me trying to be rude or anything. It's true. In further news, as I was talking about this before, it believed that the Russians launched bombers into an area in Norway, around Sweden, of course, around Finland, to provocate something, because lately this has been happening. This right here is people from Syria, areas around the Middle East that has fled those areas to try to come to Finland. They've been given bikes by the Russians. They continue to arrive in numbers like this, and they're being stalked by the Finnish border. They're not being let through because they're not allowed to through. We are not letting them through. They're illegally being pushed through by the Russians. Now, they're not illegal. I hate using the word illegal migrants. The reason why I say they're legally being pushed through is because Russia is taking them from their homes, driving them through Russia, and then pushing them through into Europe to try and weaken our countries, in the sense that, you know, we have to deal with migrant crisis. But, you know, in other news, it's not exactly working. It's called hybrid warfare, where they're kind of using a different kind of. They're not actively at war, but they're provocating, you know, going against us. That's what the Russians are doing. That's what the Russians continue to do, and we are continuing to watch that. There, you know, many of these people here don't know what they're doing. They're just going with it because they simply don't have another option. And that's, of course, because Russians are in Syria, and they take these civilians and they actually take them to these areas and try and push them into. You've seen this in the Belarusian theater. You've seen Belarus push people into Poland. You've seen it happen in Estonia. This is in Finland, Estonia, and Latvia. Latvia is has pretty much close to their border with Russia, but Estonia and Finland are pretty much in case right now gonna close their border completely. Okay, and when that happens, that means that no one gets through from the Russian side. No one. Okay, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how many you are. No one gets through. Okay, that means no planes, nothing. Closing the border. They're gonna close the border. Finland, if this continues, this situation right here where they're pushing these migrants through right here, right? If that continues, they will close the border, okay? And I believe we are hours, maybe days away from this happening. Because the reason why I'm saying hours, because it could happen any minute, you know. But I'm not. We may be weeks or hours. Sorry, hours, days, weeks away from it. I don't know, but we're certainly not far away from them actually closing this border, because I don't think they're gonna keep this up. They have already closed pretty much all checkpoints. No Russian cars can get through, and two cross points, two border crossings are the only one left that's actually open for people to get through. However, they're not letting migrants through, and that's, you know, the other thing there. And it's happening. The same thing is happening in Estonia. So that's what we're watching right now. And, you know, if they do close the border, I think it's going to be one of those Russian red lines that, you know, they keep saying, look at this, you know, we're gonna attack you if you do this, and then they keep saying it's a red line, but then they're not really going to do anything about it. You know, it's one of those Russian red lines. Do I think they're going to actually do anything about it? No, I don't think so, but it is certainly significant that they would close the border completely to a country. You know, it could create some crises that we're not happy about having to deal with, right? But earlier news here today, you can see the Russians have pushed around this lake right here. They've pushed a little bit in the areas around here in Andavika. They continue to push in. They've even made a little bit of advancement down here, directly in towards Andavika. This is a hard front right here. This is one of the areas the Russians are throwing tens of thousands of soldiers into, and, you know, blaming the Ukrainians for falling back once in a while is hard, because, you know, it is a really hard battlefront, and I don't blame the Ukrainian one bit for even losing a little bit of background, because they're fighting, you know, one of the toughest battles of this war. You know, the Russians are throwing tens of thousands, and they're losing numbers in such, you know, ecstatic ways. It's insane. They're actually losing around a thousand soldiers a day, and most of them comes from this front right here, and they're losing almost 10,000 soldiers a week almost 10,000 soldiers a week is what we're looking at here in the Andavika and all across the front, right? So it's getting pretty serious. One thing that is going pretty good for other things is that the Ukrainians have made landings in the Kherson area, and that they're still holding. They're here. We know they're here. It appears that the Russians did push forward a little bit, very insignificant though, but they are here. We know that the Russians are fighting against the Ukrainians in this feeder right here. We call it the Kherson feeder. And this one pretty much has turned into a standstill. But of course, a little bit of a small pushback from the Russians there again today. It is a little bit of a hard point today, but some pushes from the Russians there. You can see took back some area that they previously controlled. The Russians used to control all of this right here. You see my mouse there. They used to control all that. The Ukrainians pushed that back, so I could go back a bit. Continue to go back, right? And we keep going back, But they used to control all of it, of course. But you go back a bit, they used to control all that area there. So that's a slow grind there, but they did take it back. And you go, but look at that. They did take it back, right? That's the area some time ago. You go forward, and the Ukrainians did take it back. Freddy, welcome in. So you can see the Ukrainians slowly but surely is moving forward here. The numbers that the Russians are losing compared to the numbers that the Ukrainians are losing, Russians are losing so much. But it goes back to what I was stating earlier, because I've been stating it for a while, that yes, the Ukrainians are winning in numbers 100%. However, the Russians simply have more. That's the problem with the Russians. You really have to grind down and just take out so much. The Russians have vast resources, and we are still looking at a long war. And the reason why we are is because not only is sanctions failing, but the West is being the West and being lazy motherfuckers and doing all their bullshit like usual. So wanting to not go against, and they're listening to the UN. I like to call the UN the useless nuts, because they're useless. You don't need the UN. People say we need the UN. I can guarantee you we don't need the UN. Okay, we need the Human Rights Council, sure. Justice Court, yeah. UN, no. Trust me, we don't need the UN. We can figure something else out, because I feel like either we need to replace the people inside the UN, or we need to do something else, because they're fucking ridiculous. The UN has turned into a nutcase, but that's a separate point, right? Looking at the numbers, as you can see, 5,422 tanks. The Russians have 8,000 tanks at their disposal, which means they still have more tanks, and of course they continue to build more tanks, but we are looking at a very significant tank loss for what I would call a very insignificant amount of area to have taken. So 7 tanks, 14 vehicles. We've actually recently hit 10,000 vehicles and fuel tanks, which is a significant number for anybody. Recently also hit 10,000 APVs, which is crazy. Zeroing in on that 10,000 artillery systems here, pretty far away from it though, but still there. 14 artillery systems, 17 UAVs, 4 special equipments, that's good right there, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare, which is great for the Ukrainian commanders there. But I think what we are waiting for and what we're looking for is certainly waiting for the Ukrainians to receive their F-16s, and when they do inevitably receive their F-16s, which the Ukrainians are still waiting to receive their F-16s, they're actually they are training in Romania, and if you don't know Romania is, that's Romania right there, and that's Ukraine. So they're training right here, and they've actually set up a facility to train Ukrainian pilots in Romania. This facility will train F-16 pilots that have previously been training they're also training in the United States. They continue to train in the United States. They're training on their own. They're really, really tough pilots. They've flown their own planes. They've flown blah, blah, blah. So, we are 100% in the point right now where we're looking at the fact that we are waiting for those F-16s to get into Ukraine, and when they do get into Ukraine, that will be a game changer, because then Ukraine could and will control the skies, and when they do control the skies, then they can control the battleground. What army controls the sky? The Russians do still control the sky. People may doubt me, but it's true. You see, Zelensky said it himself. Zelensky said himself that the Russians are still controlling the sky with their many less advanced jets, but they are still controlling the skies. However, when the Ukrainians get their more advanced F-16s to fly around Ukraine, the skies will be Ukrainian, and the Russians will have a hard time shooting down those F-16s because they have very few systems left that can actually do that. So they would rain down hell upon the Russian positions, and the Russians would have nothing else to do but think we are gonna die. That is literally the answer that you have right there, because the Russians would not have any way of shooting it down. They would just have to wait for their death. So that's, main point there. When they do control the skies, they control the battlefield, because the Russians will always worry there's something that's going to hit us on top. There's a tank coming in, boom, bomb, dropped, no, whatever, no, and then there's another thing coming in, boom, drop, dead, and then the infantry is just starting to push forward. They have those 100. They're going to get 100 F-16s, as far as I understand. And as soon as they get that, oh, thank you, Witchy. Welcome in. Good luck on your Facebook Live. It says in Finnish meeting today, Ukraine is light years to join EU, and he will oppose Ukrainian invitation. Swedish STV reports. Well, I think we can pretty easily say that. We could say, if it was me, okay, and I continue to say this, if it was me, what I would do is say, okay, sure, Urban. Well, if you don't say yes to the EU, because everybody else wants them in the EU, then we may have to talk about your membership in the EU. Because if you don't want to say yes to the EU, then we will say yes for you. And then we say that if you don't say yes, you will be kicked out of the EU, and then you won't have any chance of getting into the EU again. Unless, of course, your people then get a different leader, and, well, one that's more favorable for the EU. I think that'd be, when everybody else wants a country in the EU, and then there's one country saying, we don't want it, then what you do is that you go to that guy and say, okay, sure, well, then you're not going to be part of the EU. And then they go, well, you can't do that. Actually, I can, because I have the majority, and we could decide over you. We could kick you out because we have the majority, So I that's what I'd do. I'd kick them. I'd threaten to kick them out. I'd say, if you don't say yes, we'll kick you out. And it doesn't work the other way around. If he says like, oh, okay, well, if you say yes, I'll kick you out, but that doesn't work because he doesn't have the majority. We have the majority. Everybody else wants Ukraine in the EU. We say when the majority votes on it, it's not like a dictatorship. It's a fucking democracy. Everybody voted on it, So it's not like an unfair decision when everybody said, we know that we are not gonna let you hinder Hungary. He belongs to Hungary, Hungary. I think that's how you say it. I don't know how to say it in English, but I think that's how you say it. Hungary, right? So, Hungary. He's hungry. But yeah. But that is my main point of view. Jesus Christ. A lot of videos going around lately of all this anti-Semitism is happening around the internet. There are students in Harvard, university, you probably know what Harvard is. If you don't know, you probably, I mean, I'd imagine you know what Harvard is. One of the areas that everybody knows what Harvard is. It's in the United States, and well, there's students that have locked themselves inside of a hall inside Harvard University, and their demands for coming out of that set hall is immediate ceasefire. Well, sorry, for the university to call for immediate ceasefire and the deoccupation of Palestine. Now, it's like the university has any say so over Israel. Like, it's ridiculous because nothing's gonna happen. They think they locked themselves inside a university, and that's that's whatever, right? And then the whole war's gonna stop. No, because Israel doesn't give a shit. The factor is you can't run a government on religion. Okay, now that's not saying you can't be a religious man or woman or whatever you are. Listen, you can be religious, but you can't run a government on religion. Okay? If you were to pick someone for the United States government that said that came up in a speech and said, God will tell me what to do, you would be stupid to pick that guy because he's going to run the government on beliefs and religion. You can't run a government on religion. What you can run a government on, the most perfect people to actually run a government would be an atheist, because they don't believe in anything. And not only do they not believe in anything, they could also just be in beliefs of other people's belief. Now, I do note that maybe atheists aren't the perfect because they simply don't believe anything. So maybe just someone who says, well, I'm not that religious. I'm just somebody who wants to do good, right? That's where I look at it. But yeah, you can't run a government on religion. That's just not how it works, Okay. Kiev region has been attacked by what appears to be kamikaze drones. Kiev is being targeted more recently. It appears that the Russians are trying to put their digit attempts of trying to bomb the Ukraine with whatever they have left, right? With bombs and, now kamikaze drones. So that's what they have right there. Liberian flag George S. suffered light damage off Ukrainian coast. It's likely that the grain ship hit a floating sea mine. The ship was heading to the Romanian port of Constanta, according to Marine Traffic, a ship traveling a maritime analytics company. So, Liberian flag Georgia was in the Black Sea, right? So Romanian port, and then this person, who placed the mine? Do they know? Who the fuck do you think? Who? Who the? Now, granted, you might not know the situation that's happening in Ukraine, but come on. Like, the biggest news story, it was all over the news when the Russians started to mine the Black Sea. That was all over the news. And you're telling me, what, you've been living under a stone for the last, 2 years almost? That you don't know that they've done that? Because it's been around for quite a while now. Seriously. Some people... Now, I'm okay with some people being unknowledgeable about things and simply wanting to live their life. I'm okay. But I just imagine that you'd watch the news once in a while. Just go on the news once in a while. Keep yourself updated to what the current situation of the world is. Just keep yourself updated. Come on. It's like, how far out do you have to be to not know what's going on in Ukraine? Or even to know that Ukraine is still at war. Some people literally ask me, oh, are they still at war? Yes. Like, people will live their lives without having to worry about it, want to worry about it, and I'm okay with that. I don't care if you don't worry about it, but just try and keep yourself updated. It's okay to know a little bit about the news. You don't have to watch videos of it. You just, you know, keep yourself a little updated. I'm just saying, like, it will benefit you in so many ways to keep yourself updated, just a tiny bit. It'll help you understand the world better. That's my point of view. But I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just fine. Okay. Another thing that has been pressing, and I was talking about this yesterday. This right here is a video. So look at this. So how can this blockade be allowed to happen? What are the EU doing and is Polish government doing to resolve this as soon as possible? There's a war going on just over the border. Now this is a Polish border with Ukraine, and Ukraine has lately had some trouble with Poland because some of the Polish farmers and competitors in the agriculture market don't agree with the prices that the war-torn country of Ukraine would imply, because the Polish farmers have lately, and pretty much all around Europe has lately, seen an increase in their sales because the breadbasket that was and is Ukraine hasn't been outputting any grain lately. Ukraine, of course, used to be massive exporter of grain, as you can see right here. So this is in oh, sorry, I think it's because I have a video playing. Sometimes if there's like a video playing down here or something like that. Yeah, there we go. So if you want to point out, right, and that's the one thing I want to say here, the prices that Ukraine competes with, because there's about 3,000 trucks right here. As far as I'm understanding, at this point, there's about 3,000 trucks stopping at that border there. Much of it filled with either war material or things that Ukraine needs to supply its war, or just basic needs and basic things for business or everything, usual things, trucks. So it's quite annoying that the factor that they're not getting through, because, well, think about it, that's things that are not going into Ukraine. Ukraine needs these things. It's quite a war-torn country. But because these Polish farmers have lately felt so great with, their lately supremacy in the food market, because they have had a great time when Ukraine wasn't outputting, because it is a large agriculture country. Ukraine has so much soil, it's a large country and has rich soil that makes it able to grow a lot of wheat and grain, and export that a lot, and it was one of the biggest exporters. And when that goes out, then other countries have to pick up the slack, and therefore prices, not only do they go up, but the demand gets higher, therefore people are willing to pay more, and therefore people get paid more. Polish farmers, Romanian farmers, people around the EU who has previously not had that high of a price and wanting to, live a little bit of a better life, have recently just picked up their own ideas and said, well, we want more money. So they're protesting going against such ideas of letting Ukraine, export their things and export their grain, all that stuff, and blah, 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 into Europe and blah, 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 right? And, I think I don't think it's fair that they are doing it, but there has been long a sort of oppression of these farmers, because, the Polish farmers haven't been paid a lot for a long time. They certainly have felt that the idea that they cannot be paid more, and therefore they are wanting to do so, and therefore I think if we were to look into saying maybe just increase the prices or lower the prices of grain, or agree on something in the EU to help these farmers, because not only in Denmark, in the UK, farmers are struggling, okay? And they're struggling all around Europe, and they need help. So I don't think that the trucks going into Ukraine is good, but I do think that there is a point to it, but I think it's a bit ridiculous. So it's kind of like a 50-50 situation for me. But, sometimes you got to sacrifice yourself for when there's a war going on, because when the war's going on, you got to sacrifice yourself once a bit. But that's The Verge reported that OpenAI board and Microsoft are in talks with Sam Altman for his return as CEO after being sacked just yesterday. Damn, that guy comes back quick. No, that guy comes back quick. I'm back, baby. I'm back. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move on to some flash news. See if he has the latest for us. See if he has anything. He does not. So he didn't upload his latest. All right. Well, I think we'll watch some Zelensky then, shall we? We'll watch the latest update from Zelensky. It's a 3-minute update, so it's not that long of an update today, but it's all right. We love watching him anyways.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Головне за сьогодні. Перше, ще раз вітаю усіх українських сержантів та старшин з професійним днем. Я дякую кожному сержанту, кожному старшині, які дійсно дбають про воїнів, підтримують бойовий дух у своїх підрозділах та вміють бути лідерами для солдатів. За час повномасштабної війни більш ніж 13 тисяч сержантів були відзначені державними нагородами. Напередодні я підписав указ про нагородження ще сотні українських сержантів, найкращих, найсильніших. Пишаюся вами усіма. Друге, за сьогодні введено в дію кілька рішень РНБО щодо санкцій. Майже 40 російських юридичних осіб і більш ніж 100 фізичних осіб, зокрема ті, хто причетний до викрадення і депортації українських дітей з окупованої території, а також особи, які різним чином допомагають російському терору проти України. Посилюємо тиск нашої держави на них. І кожен з них повинен відповідати за те, що наробив. І жодного зв'язку цих людей з Україною ми не залишимо. Третє. Я хочу відзначити країни, які цього тижня оголосили про нову допомогу нашій державі. Німеччина, Фінляндія, Литва. Дякую за нові оборонні пакети. Естонія протягом наступних років буде збільшувати безпекові інвестиції у виробництво боєприпасів. І це важливо. Норвегія та Британія. Є рішення про нові гуманітарні пакети для України і українців. Дякую. І вже готуємо нові кроки, безпекові кроки наступних тижнів. Зокрема, це стосується посилення ППО. Ще одне. За минулу ніч у нашому небі були знищені майже 30 шахедів. Я дякую воїнам мобільних вогневих груп, авіації наших повітряних сил та зенітним ракетним військам. Ваша влучність, хлопці, це буквально життя для України. Чим ближче до землі, тим більше буде російських намагань робити удари потужніше. Усім нам в Україні важливо бути ефективними на 100%, попри всі складнощі, попри всю втому, попри будь-які намагання послабити Україну. Повага і слава усім, хто б'ється заради держави, усім, хто допомагає та працює, щоб Україна могла захищати і захистити незалежність. Це залежить від кожного, від кожної, хто стійкий, від усіх, хто ефективний, від кожного і кожної, хто може додати і додає Україні сили, перспектив. Будь ласка, використовуйте кожну можливість, щоб посилити державу. Слава Україні!
Here we have it. Thank you so much, Zelensky. I don't know what happened back there. Some kind of sound started popping up, and it was really annoying, so... Good now. Doing good now. Hopefully. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna have to mute it. I don't know what the fuck that was. That's something. Goals in Nigeria. Look at that. When Boko Haram abducted 2,270 plus girls in Nigeria, the celebrity, well, did this. When Hamas rapists abducted 240 Israeli on October 7th, including little girls, they did nothing. Why are our girls' life worthless? So the factor is, right? So that's Michelle Obama, sorry. Harrison Ford. Granted, I like Harrison Ford. Fucking hate her. I mean, Jesus Christ. The fact that she's trying to look concerned is what I hate the most. Because Ellen the fucking DeGeneres, or whatever the fucking name is not in one bit fucking concerned about shit. I don't know. I don't like her. She has to kind of feel about her, and I don't know any of that. I can just see the fact that I don't like her. I don't know why I see it on her face, but I don't. I have no idea who these guys are. I don't know who that is. I don't know who these guys are, but that's maybe a little tough right there. I don't know. Maybe she's some kind of inspirational thing, but it points towards the factor that celebrities and people in power will only say that they support something if it gets them either votes, likes, or followers, and it does so point towards it. Celebrities don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about your life. All they care about is if your life all of a sudden becomes important worldwide, then they will start caring about your life. Because then your life, it becomes important for your stories. Because if you break your leg and that becomes a worldwide story, hypothetically, right? Well, probably won't, but if it did, right? What would happen then, right? Then everybody, all of a sudden, would start going, oh my God, he broke his leg. Oh my God. And then celebrities would catch on to it and say, I'm so sorry for that, the fact that you broke your leg. But if somebody else, fell and broke both legs, but they weren't specifically famous. They weren't in the stories. They weren't talked about, but they had it worse than you. They had it worse than you. But the celebrities who advocates for people not having their leg broken, right? they're not going to talk about it because, well, you're not in the news media. It's not going to give them followers and likes. Some might. Some are genuinely good people. Kanye Reeves, great guy. He's genuinely a great guy. But other celebrities, they're not going to give a shit. Just saying. But I don't know. I'm just saying that's the live point right there. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Saturday that the U.S. would begin issuing visa bans on extremist Israel settlers committing violent acts against Palestinians in the West Bank. Oh, look at that. So why not the other way around as well? But apparently because, well, the White House doesn't do that. No other country than Iceland is better prepared for volcano and other natural disaster, its prime minister said on Saturday. Yeah. This is Iceland, by the way. We're watching Iceland. That city right there, if you don't know what that city is right there, this right here, as you can see on the map, is a lava line, a magma line. It's 15 kilometers wide. Underneath this city, Grandavika, this line runs, and it runs about, well, I think they were like 800 meters underneath the ground or something like that. And if said thing, it's kind of like a volcano, like a longly stretched volcano, and if that thing, because recently there's been a lot of earthquakes, and that's, and it's been along this line, you can see that it's been directly along this line right here, exactly where that fault line or that line of magma is. And if said magma line was to erupt like a volcano, it could erupt right there, which is directly next to, which is like kind of over here, I think, directly next to this city of people. It's evacuated. I don't think anybody's there, as far as I understand. But one thing that is for certain, that it could blow over here, it could blow there, it could blow there, there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna blow here. It could blow in the ocean, which could be a worse thing because then they could blow even worse, but then become a massive explosion. But that's and then there would be a second island. That's one thing. If it blows in the ocean, there's a chance of there becoming a second island. However, that would be the less damageable. That's the thing you got to point out here. That would be the thing that would damage less. But of course, what we're worrying about is if it blows anywhere along where the city is. And if that happens, well, then this whole town right here would have magma, lava spewing up, and well, devouring the city itself. The city would blow up, burn to the ground, and we're talking about lives here. We're talking about there's quite a big city. I think it was a lot of thousands of people. I don't remember the exact number. That live here, that have their lives here, and it would be a tragedy. It would be a tragedy. Now it has calmed down a little bit. However, some scientists are saying that last time something like this happened, it also, right before blowing up or erupting, actually calmed down, because when they started reporting on this, they had a report of like 8,000 earthquakes in one day. Now it's calmed down. There's not that many earthquakes as per hour, but they're saying that usually it can calm down. It can like calm down before actually, sort of blowing, which is crazy to think about. This right here, Rendivich, which is also near a volcano, as far as I understand. I think all of these are looking in an area that's also quite active. This is a steam from it. That right there is steam from a power plant, by the way, as well. So point that out as well. But yeah, it is quite a serious situation there, and we're watching that very closely. Just if you're wondering why I'm watching Iceland, that's why. What is new in the world? On December 13th, the French government wants to consider the possibility of ensuring the right to abortion in the country's constitution. Oh, wow. Enshrining the right to... Does that mean enshrining? Does that mean take it away or keep it? Enshrining? Does that mean take it away? I don't know, but I think it needs to stay away from all this abortion shit. People want to get an abortion, get it, And then people go, oh, but it's a baby. Suck up. Shut up, okay? And suck it up, okay? Because, yeah, I believe that people have the right to fucking choose for themselves. And second of all, I also have to believe that a man can't have the right to choose for what a woman wants. Now, there is one thing here. There's one exception here that I do want to look at. What if there was a husband that wants to get children? He's up in the age. He may not have children, and then he comes with a wife, and the wife doesn't want children. She gets an abortion, but he wanted children. That right there is an issue. That's sure, that is an issue, and I get that, but I still think it's a bit, like, whose choice is it? I don't know. But due to a decline in vaccination rates, the number of measles infection is growing worldwide. The WHO reports. Fucking measles. There's all kinds of things all of a sudden. But, people keep talking about all these things, and I have to tell you one thing, don't worry about it. Because the factor is, there are millions of viruses, millions of things every year, you don't hear about them. The only reason why we're starting to hear about Ebola, measles, and all this kind of stuff is because we had COVID, and now people are afraid of it. So, yeah. The ABEC summit in the United States ended without an agreed position on Russian aggression in Ukraine and the fighting in Gaza. Well, there you have it. The German government calls for hiring Ukrainian even without significant German language skills. Damn. All right, cool. Armenia has agreed with Azerbaijan on the main principle of peace treaty, but the negotiation process is still ongoing. So they're actually getting to peace talks with each other. That's a good ending, I think. Well, it's a peaceful ending, which is good. That's what I'm saying. Armenia offered Azerbaijan to exchange prisoners on the all for all plan. This was announced by Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan at the opening ceremony of the fall session of the OSEC Parliamentary Assembly in Yerevan. There you have it. Let's see if there's any plane activity. We got an E6 outside here. That one's done it before. We have an increase in E6 activity. I will be honest. There's been an increase in E6 activity lately, but one thing that's significant is that they keep flying outside Washington, or on the West Coast, or whatever that is. The East Coast and West Coast. I always get my compass mixed up. I always get the compass mixed up. Yeah, nothing. Is anything in Pacific? Kawasaki P1. That's a surveillance plane right there. That flies pretty regularly. 76. Nothing really. See if there's any Russian planes up. Sometimes you gotta check it. You just gotta check if there's anything going on insignificantly. See if there's anything really happening. We got some Russian planes up. What do we have here? Cargo planes. Yeah. What we got there? We got a Jordan plane up. Yeah. Right, a Russian plane? That's a Russian plane. That's a Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan. Sorry. A lot of Russian cargo planes lately. Been flying around. One took off from that's Saudi Arabia. One took off from the United Emirates. Well, not unusual. We got a lot of tankers flying. That's American tankers right there. Yep. Homer 42. There you have it. Yeah, not a lot. It is a surprising amount of air activity for a Saturday, I will say. But, you know. What ifs? What ifs? What ifs? I'm going to go on UA Live map. I think that's what I want to be heading right now. Nothing out of the ordinary. No. Air defense. Russian air defense in Kiev. Sorry, is active in Kiev region against Russian drones. There's a lot of drone activity lately in the areas around there, but what ifs? What ifs? Yeah. So they haven't confirmed this one down here, which I find funny, but that's another point. So War Mapper doesn't include this, but these guys do, and then UA Live doesn't include this, but that's funny, but whatever. So they're actually saying that they're actually in the middle of Gaza. Look at that. Can you just point out right here? Look how many fucking hospitals that are inside of Gaza. I want to point that out, right? It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense that there's this many health clinics inside. So look at that. That is the Al Shachan clinic. That is right over here. That's another clinic. That's the Al Ramad Clinic Center. That right there is a hospital. That's a hospital right there. There's a clinic. That's a clinic center. That's another hospital. A hospital. Why the fuck is it that there's a hospital in this vicinity? How many fucking people get hurt? Like why are there hospitals everywhere? That's what I don't get. So I think maybe it's because they're so cramped, so they had to spread out the hospitals. That's something they're talking about. I mean, but it's ridiculous that there's so many hospitals. I mean, it doesn't make sense. How are they staffing all of them hospitals? I think that they deliberately built a lot of hospitals. Cause look at that. That's like two clinics right next to each other. Some people have pointed out that they may actually have built clinics. Look at this, for example. So look at the areas around here. So we got 3 in this city right here, right? We got 1 in that city, and then specifically 3 in the others. Some few ones stacking around that little one right there, and then you move further down. You have a few over here as well. Quite a lot in the bigger city. That's Khan Yushin. But the funny part about Gaza is it has so many fucking hospitals and clinics. I think deliberately they have so many clinics. That's to be honest with you, because I don't know why they have that many clinics. If it works, it works. But hey, that's a lot of clinics for an area around 42 square kilometers. But what ifs? Whatever. That's what ifs. I'm gonna be judging you. I'm gonna be judging you. I don't care. Oh, massive protest in Madrid. Look at that. Mass protest in Madrid, Spain against PM Sanchez amnesty deal. Amnesty deal. I mean, that is, holy shit, that is a massive protest. Holy shit. Look at that. How many fucking people are there? You'd think that's impossible, but it's true. It's true. It's there. It's happening. World record. SBU sniper killed a Russian soldier from a distance of 3.8 kilometers. He shot from Ukrainian Horizon Lord rifle. The previous record was 3.40 meters. Well, 3.5 kilometers. It's insane. I mean, that's verification. I don't know, but you know, they keep, yeah, whatever. Let them have it. The Israel minister responsible for the fight against the anti-Semitism has publicly thanked Elon for standing on the right side of history. It's safe to say Elon is probably not an anti-Semitic. I don't think he was, seeing that I think he's, I don't know if he's Jewish actually, but I don't know. Yeah, don't want to see that, please. Why won't Egypt and Jordan take refugees from Gaza? Arabs know that their history better than anti-Israeli protesters marching in universities. But the factor is, you know, they keep saying they like each other. How many hospitals have Copenhagen compared to the Gaza hospital? Well, the thing is, Copenhagen has one hospital. They have like one massive hospital. And the thing is, that hospital is huge. I mean, it's huge. And then there's one big hospital in where I live. We have two super hospitals, they call it. So, you know, people don't usually have, at least in other worlds, usually don't have like a hospital next to another hospital, and then next to that hospital, there's another hospital. You know, people usually take one hospital, especially when we're talking about an area that's 42 square kilometers long. It would make a lot more sense to scrap all the other clinics and then make one big hospital and then call that your main hospital. Then you put all resources together, you know? So just want to point out that if they were sensible, they would have made a hospital that was one big hospital, one super hospital. But the 40s wanted to spread it out because they weren't being sensible. You know, and because because Hamas was telling them to do this, I think they've planned it for this for quite a long time. You know, let's build a clinic. Let's build a clinic. We don't need this clinic. We'll just do it anyways. You know, yeah. 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 Winter will be tough, Zelensky. The occupiers are accumulating missiles for strikes. However, in terms of air defense, we are in a better position than last winter, said the president. So winter will be tough, said Zelensky. Now we've talked about that before. Winter could be tough for Ukrainians, and I've talked about it will be tougher for the Russians, but it will be tough for the Ukrainians as well. I believe that the Russians are stocking missiles that they will deliberately use to hammer electrical grids, and that will take out heating, that will take out maybe it's hammer against residential buildings, things like that. They're stockpiling missiles to do just so. What they're trying to really do is trying to take out electrical grids and stuff like that could in potentiality um you know um cost the homes of many of the people living not only near the front but in Kiev and in Ukraine to not have heating, which could cause what I would say a lowering in morale, because I don't think it's but I think anybody who's going to go through the winter that it looks like we're heading into, because we are heading into quite a cold winter as far as the scientists and what's that called, meteorologists or whatever they call it, with the weather experts, right? As far as they call it, they're as far as they call it, right? They're ready for. I was just watching one video right here. Look at this. So, as far as they call it, they're getting ready for a war that is quite serious in the winter, and it will get quite tough. And we are in the winter now, and we're heading into December. December is going to be the toughest, right? So and then of course keeping on from that, right? For a month of fighting in the winter here, it's going to be tough. So check this video out here. So this is Ukrainian drone work right here, right? So the best one is when they head towards the truck. So they have Russians drive around these hippie trucks, which I like to call hippie trucks because they are hippie trucks. But look at when they find one here. It's pretty funny. Why, yeah. But look at this. They find one eventually here. It's gonna come up. Don't worry. What? What, did I just watch that video there? Wait, what? Oh, here we have it. Look, I was watching the wrong video. There you have it, right? So this is the hippie truck that the Russians like to drive around in. You may have seen Wagner troops drive around in as well. But look at them trying to shoot that drone out. So they drive away from that drone, but the drone is actually faster than the car itself, which is crazy to think about. But look at what the Russians do. They think, let's shoot the drone out. Okay, Lavrov, open the door so we can shoot the drone. Yeah, open the door. Okay, great. And then the drone flies directly into the door. This guy demonstrates. Come on in, dude. Come on in. This is the Russian. This is Lavrov right there. Come on in. I want to die. Come on. Just come on in. I want to die. That's... I don't want to be here anymore. Come on in. Come on in, guys. Come on. Overnight, Ukraine was attacked by 38 shaded drones. 20 of 9 of them were shot down, the Air Force said. Well, they shot down 29. That's pretty good. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, so the Ukrainians continue to take out radar systems. I talked about this before, how this is one of the most important works that they're doing, which is taking out these special equipment, radar storages, and all that stuff. This right here is probably what I'd call the most important work that they could be doing as of right now. And, well, hopefully they'll continue to do it with a sense of pride, because if they continue to take out radar stations, that will cut off the Russians any way possible for them to actually have any communication with each other, which will not only make the Russian situation so much worse, it will make them worse than ever before, So that's the thing we would like. That's the thing we like to see. Taking out that special equipment. It's one thing to take out a tank, because the Russians can relatively replace their tanks, but they cannot continue to replace radar, air defense, and all that stuff, which are not manufactured, which are manufactured in Russia, but they require equipment that isn't made in Russia. They're actually, a lot of them are made in Western countries, and Russia doesn't have access to such Western things anymore. All right, talking about what I was talking about before. So look at this right here. So I was talking about that, the NATO having to intercept that, but we have a little bit more of a further thing right here. Just outside Norwegian airspace, a formation of Russian Tu-60 still have great numbers on its air defense. Yeah, it still does, but it's gonna get F-16s very soon as well, so it's gonna be great. Just outside Norwegian airspace, a formation of 2 Russian Tu-60 bombers, so Tu-160 bombers. There you have it. I was actually just talking. I said maybe one Tu-160, but all right. 2 MiG-31s and a Lycian 78 refueling aircraft looked to starboard and discovered they have company. A pair of Norwegian 5th generation stealth fighters, F-35s. The Russian turned around and went home. They turned around and realized that holy shit, we're look at that. So there you have it. That's the Elysian. That's the refueler right there, and that right there is the MiG, and then you have the fighter jets. That's their hypersonic fighter jets right there. Well, not hypersonic, but it's their fastest bomber right there. I think they're probably exercising or whatever they were doing, but they weren't allowed. So they turned around and realized they had 2 F-35 American-made 5th generation stealth fighter jets behind them, and they realized, holy shit. they said, yes, sir, we have to hit home. And then Lavrov said, why? We have something. We have F-35 behind us. I'm saying because I played enough Call of Duty.
So what's the red line? Because I know there has to be a red line somewhere, but what's the red line? Because if you have one Hamas commander in a sea of 5,000 civilians, I've played enough Call of Duty to understand that if you try to strike that one Hamas commander or that one Al-Qaeda commander in a sea of like 5,000 civilians from some sort of...
This man right here, I want to point this man out right here. This is Jackson Hickle. Now, I don't usually like to share his point of views, but I just want to point out just how stupid he is. He has been in Russia. He's a Russian puppet. He really is. I mean, he's paid off by the Russians, and I don't usually do conspiracy theories, but the fact is I know he's paid off by the Russians. I know he has some kind of account from the Russians. He's Putin's favorite Western propagandist.
So
here you have
what's
it.
the red line? Because I know there has to be a red line somewhere, but what's the red line? Because if you have one Hamas commander in a sea of 5,000 civilians, I've played enough Call of Duty to understand.
I've played enough Call of Duty to understand warfare. Yes, because you play Call of Duty and then you understand warfare. Yes.
And that if you try to strike that one Hamas commander or that one Al-Qaeda commander in a sea of like 5,000 civilians from some sort of like an Apache attack helicopter or something, if you do...
From Apache helicopter. I don't know where they would get that Apache helicopter from, but all right.
And you kill the civilians, Call of Duty is going to restart the level, and they're going to be like, you just took out, civilians, you had to wait until the commander of Hamas gets to an exclusive zone by himself. I've played enough rounds of this game. I know how it works, right? But unfortunately, Call of Duty does not, or I guess Call of Duty does abide by international law. The Israeli military, the U.S. military do not. So I guess my question is, where's that red line?
See, I lose brain cells listening to this man. What the fuck is your point, even? What's your fucking point? Like, what are you talking about, dude? You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You just keep talking about, I played enough Call of Duty to know that they abide by international law, and the Israeli army don't. Now, granted. But holy shit, dude. Like, your point is that the Israeli army don't abide by international law, neither does the United States. But the Russians do. But Hamas does. Because he will tell you that if you ask Jackson Hickle and you say, hey, do you think the Russians abide by international law? He would say, actually, because I've played enough Call of Duty to know that the Russians, they actually do abide by international law. What? What are you talking about? They extend their numbers of night. Report Swedish Air Force. Yeah, it's probably after today's event, Freddy. There will be an increased amount of activity lately. I think the Russians, because of these closures, that there's a chance of the Finnish and the Estonian closing their borders. The Russians could try and fly some bombers to provoke them, and trying to start something, or not start something, but maybe just you know stir something up, or try and show their force and show their hand and say we still have this and we still have that. That could be something that they're doing. It's yeah.
Ну, оттолкнусь от вашей дискуссии, там, на мой взгляд,
Russian invaders observe how. Oh, okay. Don't really care about that. It is National Independence Day. Well, I think that was yesterday. For me, it's yesterday. For you, it's probably still today. It's National Independence Day for Latvia, I believe. So if you're from Latvia, happy International Independence Day. Yeah. Almost 4,000 cyber attacks on Ukraine detected, U.S. Treasury Department. Hey, look at that. Russians are still conducting a cyber warfare. That is something. I mean, that is something they still can do, but the Ukrainians actually keep them off very effectively every day. So not only do they protect us on the web, they also protect us in the skies, on the ground, and they are the protectors of democracy and freedom, and that's what they are. Not only are they that, but they are. They are. IDF says fighters, jets, and attack helicopter bombed dozens of terror targets in Gaza in the past day. Command center, launch sites, and weapons lab hid. There you go. Well, I think not a lot of stuff happened today. The Russians do move forward, have moved forward, and I think the latest that I'm waiting on these goddamn F-16s to get into Ukraine, because that's when things are really gonna happen. That's when things are gonna pick up. But other than that, right now we're just waiting. At night, as a result of an enemy attack on Odessa, an oil depot which damaged the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine, 2,000 consumers were left without electricity due to damaged power grids. The electricity produced by Ukraine power plant is fully sufficient to cover needs of consumers, the minister later noted. But this is exactly what I just pointed out. I literally just said this. I just said that this is exactly what they're doing. We are in winter, and they're doing it, and they want to do it. So, they can't stop themselves. They like doing it. Good God. Oh, look at that. For the first time in Antarctica, a wide-body aircraft landed on a strip of snow and ice. Oh, sorry, ice and snow. I read that wrong. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner is the largest aircraft in history to have history of flight to the continent, carrying 45 passengers and 12 tons of equipment for the station. And the ice held that. That's impressive. That doesn't really give you a sort of state of just how fake that ice is. It's not just there's not just water underneath. That ice could be kilometers thick. Which is insane to think about. But that right there, Norse. First wide body aircraft ever to land. I think the braking was probably the hardest, right? I mean, braking in snow right there probably drove quite far into the snow, but I mean, they had to probably carve a long one for that to happen, but that's impressive. I mean, that's good. Well, another achievement. Lived to see it. 5 hours ago. That happened today. Lived right down in history. That's actually a historic moment right there. 25 rockets fired from Israel at Israel from Lebanon this morning. Hezbollah claims 4 separate attacks on IDF position. Army strikes in Lebanon again. Drone bomb South Lebanon target at night. And the Lebanese are still going against the Israelis as they continue to provoke any kinds of attacks, and they continue to attack and, well, continue to provoke situations. How far is it going to go without them going to war? That's, of course, something they're still talking about. I believe that the Israelis are too focused on Gaza right now to wanting to do so. So, yeah. Parliament proposes to regulate Ukraine accession to EU roaming. That's the Ukrainian parliament, though, isn't it? Alright. There was earlier today a threat of ballistic missile use. That's funny. That's in Ukraine. That's not good. Alright, well, that's it for me. I don't have any more for you. We could continue to sit here and watch it, but, well, I have got other things I need to get to. So thank you so much for stopping by. Give you a little bit of a relaunch of what happened today here, but hopefully, if there's anything else, we can probably get some news going eventually. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have some more. If anything exciting happens, then we'll come back live. If anything else happens, we'll come back live. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much